Welcome to the Cosmic Busker. My name is Bobby Cody. This video is human origins. Were humans created as pets? No, it seems outrageous. An outrageous title, an outrageous thing to say. I don't do it just to draw attention to the video. There's a long journey that I've taken to get to this point where this would be an idea that I can entertain, and I hope you take this journey with me because I want to take you through this journey that I found. And I'm going to take it from the beginning. I'm going to start from the beginning. In the early 1990s, I first came across the work of Zecharia Sitchin. Zecharia Sitchin has written several books that go into human origins. His first initial books began analyzing the Sumerian civilization. Zecharia Sitchin is a Sumerian scholar. He's able to read Sumerian. This is an ancient, old language, and he's able to read it and interpret their texts. Now, the Sumerian civilization is the first known human civilization. It's the oldest that there is, that we know about. It started about 4000 BC. That would have been about 6,000 years ago in the area of what is now Iraq, also known as Mesopotamia in the Middle East. This civilization, like I said, started 4000 BC, 6,000 years ago. They had legends or tales of their own creation. They said that their civilization, they didn't develop their civilization. Their civilization was granted to them from different beings. They referred to these beings as the Anunnaki. Now, the Anunnaki gifted civilization to humankind, and according to the Sumerians' own words, the Anunnaki created humankind. And they created humankind to mine the mines, so the Anunnaki themselves wouldn't have to do it. You know, hey, we don't want to go into these dangerous mines and mine the mines for gold. Wherever we go, all over the world, all human civilizations call gold the metal of the gods. So why? Well, because according to all these civilizations, in particular Sumeria, the Sumerian civilization, humankind was created to mine the mines for gold and then hand it over to the gods, and that's why gold is the metal of the gods. Now, I'm going to give links to Zecharia Sitchin's work and to William Bramley's as well. But one thing I want to point out, you say, well, Bob, you said we were created as pets. Why do you say that if the Sumerians say we were created as slaves to work the mines? How do you square that? Well, there's one thing slaves and pets have in common. They're owned. There's one author who has done a great job of detailing evidence that we may be a species that is owned. His name is William Bramley. He wrote a book called The Gods of Eden. I'll try to find a link to that. I'll link to that down below as well. I encourage you to read that. So what I'd like to do now is I want to take you through this journey. I'm going to first we have to say, well, you know, the Sumerians say that humans were created. You know, that definitely sounds outrageous, you know, when we in this modern day believe in evolution and that humankind evolved initially from, you know, chimps, and then the chimps went to hominids like Australopithecine, and then, you know, Homo erectus, Denisovan, Neanderthal, and then ultimately to humankind. That's the current model that most scientists are operating under, but it's very wanting. There is an abundance of evidence that we are not primates. Not at all. We're nothing like primates. We're nothing like chimps. We're nothing like apes. We're nothing like Neanderthals, Homo erectus, or Denisovans. So what I'd like to do right now is I'd like to cut away to a gentleman named Lloyd Pye. He's a lecturer, does brilliant, absolutely brilliant lectures. This particular lecture is called Human Origins. human origins, everything you know is wrong. And Lloyd Pye is going to lay out in a very humorous way. He's a great lecturer. Stick around for this. He's great. I think this is going to be about 5 or 6 minutes long, this particular segment. He's going to lay out for you all the evidence that says that we are not primates. There's no way we're primates. We're not descended directly. We didn't evolve from primates, from Homo erectus or Neanderthal or Denisovan. And he's going to lay out that evidence right now. So let's cut to that.
Please. Now, am I making it sound my way just because the heads go that way? No. Let's look at a whole body. This is a Homo erectus called the Lake Turkana boy. Homo erectus, Lake Turkana boy. Now, notice, if you will, this guy's about 12 years old. His molars have not erupted yet. He already stands 5'8". He's going to grow to 6'6", maybe 7 feet in adulthood. We don't know how they grew. But already at 12 years old, he is a physically robust creature. Every bone in his body at 12 years old is far more robust, thicker, stronger than any bone in Arnold Schwarzenegger's body today. True. Now, why do you, notice too, if you will, the length of his upper arm. And he has some shoulder socket here, so they had to put it in the right place. So that forced them to put the fingertip pretty near where it belongs. It belongs a little bit lower, but pretty close. Now, what are bones like this all about? What's the deal here? Why are they so robust? Your bones are a function of the torque your muscles can generate. Your bones have to be able to withstand the pressure that your muscles can generate. And if not, your muscles would break your bones. So when you're looking at bones like this, you're looking at an incredibly powerful creature. What are you looking at? You're looking at primate bones, primates of the earth. This is how the primates are built. Gorillas, chimps, right on down the line. They are incredibly strong relative to us, are the primates. 5 to 10 times pound for pound. They can come, they'll come right out of the mother's womb, reach up, hands and feet, hook onto her belly, and she walks off. And they can hang on. Anybody's had a pet monkey knows what I'm talking about. Next slide. Okay, this is a chimpanzee, minus its hair due to disease, so you can see the musculature in here. And the strength of these things is amazing. Amazing. You could take a male chimp like this, not a gorilla, and put it in a room with Mike Tyson. It's a battle to the death, and they both understand that. 2 or 3 minutes, this chimp is walking out. Now, he may be missing an ear or two. But the chimp is walking out. The chimp can tear him limb from limb, literally, apart. Understand that. Primate strength is nothing at all like human strength. Next slide. Same thing for Neanderthals, our supposedly closest nearest kin until just recently. Neanderthal fingertip bone, human fingertip bone. Segment of Neanderthal thigh bone, human thigh bone. Look at the difference. Not even close. This is quarters to dimes, shovel handles to broomsticks. No comparison. Our supposed, and we used to be told, absolutely, they insisted, they swore. We came directly from those guys. Even looking at this kind of evidence, that is what they insisted. Why? Because they have to explain it in terrestrial terms. Understand that science is hamstrung. They've painted themselves into a corner. They have to explain everything in terrestrial terms. They do not allow for outside intervention, whether that outside intervention is extraterrestrial or divine. And so they have to come up with explanations like this to suit the data, which doesn't at all support their conclusions. Okay, next slide.
The data does not support their conclusions. Primates have, he talked about it earlier, they have different skulls, different eye sockets, different bone density. the differences between primates and Homo sapiens, us modern humans, are just light years. There would have to be a whole series of steps to get from the primates, and I'm talking about Neanderthals, our allegedly closest ancestors, from Neanderthals to us. There have to be a whole series of steps. We could not have evolved directly from them. There's just absolutely no evidence because there's too many physiological differences. So now what I want to do is take you to one more segment, this same lecture by Lloyd Pye, where what he's going to talk about is the DNA evidence. And he's going to take a look at some of the DNA evidence, and he's going to analyze the DNA evidence, and he's going to talk about what the DNA evidence shows. But let's cut back over to Lloyd Pye real quick, and then we'll come back.
What a coincidence. Okay, next slide. Okay, what happens when a creature is born in the wild severely screwed up physically? What happens to it? Dies, right? Parents will kill it. They will not put that defect into the gene pool. You're looking at the great exception. You're looking at 28 of our of our most severe genetic defects, but we have 4,000 and counting. 4,000 and counting. Now, we're only 250,000 years old. We shouldn't have one. We've got 4,000 and counting. How did it happen? Cutting and splicing process mistakes. Cutting and splicing, oops, made a mistake. Cutting, splicing, oops, made a mistake. They don't care. They're making a slave. They're not going to fix the mistakes. What do they care if it's 1 in 100 dies from the problems? If it's 1 in 10, they don't care. They're making a mistake. I mean, they're making a slave. But they know the numbers, like we have found out the hard way. If you let the population propagate naturally, those numbers go way down for each person. Right now, as we sit here, we average about 50 of the 4,000, each of us. And we have a mating with our mate. If we share any of those 50, then each of our offspring will have a 1 in 4 chance of expressing it. That's why you'll get mongoloids in the best of families, mongoloids in the lowest of families, and all around the world. And that's what genetic defects are. In the wild, you will get 2-headed calves and 6-legged goats. That's a sperm-egg misconnect. That's not something that you see steadily on and on. A little gem like spina bifida, which is not going to let you live to adulthood, nor is it going to let you reproduce if you do. What's that doing in a gene pool? It was all put there, folks. Put there. No question. Next slide. Okay, here we go, the chromosome match. It's kind of hard to see, comparison rather. Humans, chimpanzees, gorillas, and orangutans right here. And you see how similar they are. And as we know that between humans and chimpanzees, there's 99% similarity in the DNA and 98% with gorillas. And it's like, oh, well, then we're just kissing cousins. That's as close as you can be. We're almost the same thing. Well, not really, because we're talking about a 3 billion base pair genome. 1%, that's 30 million base pairs. That's a couple thousand strands of DNA. If you know what you're doing, that's a lot of change. But also understand that all higher animals, and never say this, share 50% and up. Squirrel, 50% and up. You see, so it isn't quite as astounding as it seems. But what we're looking at here is the Anunnaki have got themselves a real problem. And that problem is this. They come to Earth and they decide they're going to make the slave. They decide we're going to use this creature of Earth, let's say it was an Alma. They test the blood, and what do they find? First thing, big problem, 48 chromosomes. All primates have 48 chromosomes. But they, the Anunnaki, have only 46 chromosomes. How do we know that? Because we have 46 chromosomes. We descend from primates, and yet somehow we lose 2 whole chromosomes. That's an awful lot of DNA. And somehow we're so much better than them. Well, they have 68 or something like that relative to them. But we don't. We have 46. So we know this was the result of the genetic engineering, and they had a problem, the Anunnaki did. What could they do? They had to, you know, how it works. There's 24 in sperm and egg, 23 sperm and egg. So you got to get the sperm and the egg to match up, one or the other, 23 or 24. Can you take out a chromosome from the creature of Earth, the 24, and still have a creature of Earth? No. Can you add a chromosome to yourself and still have an Anunnaki? Go up to 24 from 23? No. You've got a real problem. It's an insoluble problem. And you need that because you got to get the first hybrid to get in the game of the genetic engineering. You've got to get something alive that is a blending of you two to begin to work on it. So what can you do? How can you solve that problem? There's only one way, and boy, is it smart. You go in and you look and you compare the chromosomes, and you find two that can be fused and will take up one space but maintain the integrity of all the chromosomal material. You find a spot where you can fuse two to make one, and now you've got all the material but taken up one place, and now you're ready to rock and roll. You with me? All right, let's look at the number 2 chromosome close up. They just went to the second one. They just looked down the row and they said, okay, this will work. Orangutan, 2 and 3. Gorilla, 2 and 3. Chimp, 2 and 3. Human. Uh-oh. Fusion. How long do you think it would take Mother Nature to do this? There's no clearer proof that we're genetically engineered just like they say we are. Next slide. And so, I think it's fair to say that everything we know is wrong, at least about human origins, that we were given life by the gods with a small g through the equivalent of a test tube, and that we originally were the hair-covered hominoids, and that our humanity emerged from that. Now, this is where I normally end it, and they tell me I'm running out of time, so I want to get to the new thing that I want to share with you. Oh, no, where did I? Oh, here it is. Because this is really exciting to me. On the 12th of this month, which was just recently, I received an email from a person who wants to remain anonymous. And this is what he said to me. He is a geneticist, a full-blown geneticist. And he says, "Dear Mr. Pye, I agree with your conclusions and will give you a few hints, if you wish, as a DNA deep throat. First, look up the huge discontinuities between man and the various apes for whole mitochondrial DNA, genes for the Rh factor, and human Y chromosomes, among others. Regarding number 3, the chromosomes, I refer you to K.D. Smith's 1987 study titled Repeated DNA Sequences of the Human Y Chromosome. It says most human Y chromosome sequences so far examined do not have homologs, which are similar sequences, on the Y chromosomes of other primates. Human female DNA does look somewhat ape-like, but not the male Y. This means that if we are a crossbred hybrid species, as you contend, meaning me, the cross had to be between a female ape-like creature, a creature of the earth, as the Sumerians said, and a male person from elsewhere, as I also contend." He goes on to say, "What the evolutionists do is find certain genes which look very similar between man and ape, then they make a tree of descent while ignoring those huge impassable abysses of difference elsewhere. Also, by certain methods of DNA dating, one can tell that numerous genes have been recently added to the human genome. If workers in my field were to say such things openly, we would be ostracized, as I also contend, and forced to live in a tent. Any work along these lines would be rejected without any form of appeal. So what can we do? Sincerely, DNA Deep Throat." Now,
So we are the only species on this planet with so many genetic defects. And as Lloyd Pye says, why? Because the Anunnaki were creating a slave. They don't care. As they're doing the genetic manipulation, they're just flop, 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 flop. Oh, I made a mistake, whatever. It's a slave. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And those genetic defects have carried on. In nature, you do not see that. You only see that when there's genetic manipulation, and people don't. The creators of the genetic manipulation don't care about all this horrible mistakes that they're making. Another example, I just want to reiterate some of the things he said. Primates have 24 chromosomes. We have 23. How did that happen? If we're descended from primates, how do they have 24 and we have 23? It couldn't be. Well, there was a problem when the Anunnaki were creating us. They didn't know how they were going to do this, so they fused chromosomes together. So we have those 24 chromosomes, but 2 of them are fused together. so that we only have 23 chromosomes. The DNA Deep Throat, who wrote to Lloyd Pye, as he stated, and I just want to reiterate something. The Y chromosome is the male chromosome. The X chromosome is the female chromosome. Now, the DNA Deep Throat stated that the Y chromosome has no primate analogs. There's no evidence of primate descent on the Y chromosome, Y or male chromosome. On the X chromosome, or the female chromosome, it does look somewhat ape-like. Why? Well, the Sumerian stories that talk about the creation of mankind or humankind say that the Anunnaki leader, his name was Enki, this Anunnaki leader, he was a scientist essentially. He took his DNA and he merged it with the DNA of a female Earth primate, maybe Neanderthal, maybe Denisovan, maybe Homo erectus, we're not sure yet, to create humans. So he took his own DNA, the Y, and he was a male, so he took his Y chromosome, merged it with the female, primitive female from Earth, the primate, her X, and created humankind. And sure enough, the DNA Deep Throat says, just like the Sumerian stories tell us, the Y chromosome has no primate analogs. There's no evidence of primate ancestry whatsoever on the Y chromosome, only on the X or female chromosome, just like the Sumerian stories state. So now I just want to finally end this with where we began it, with the title, Were Humans Created as Pets? Well, why pets? Why do I say that, and where do I get that from? There's a process called neoteny. Neoteny is the retention, I'm going to put it up here real quick. Neoteny is the retention of juvenile traits into adulthood. It does happen in nature. Absolutely, there's no question about it. It does happen in nature. But it is seen most completely and most fully in domesticated animals. I'm going to put up here so you can see it. Neotenous traits in domestic animals like cats and dogs and ferrets as well. Includes decreased aggression, floppy ears, curly tails, large eyes, large ears. Now, these are some neotenous traits that domesticated animals have. Humans are one of the most completely neotenous species on the planet. Humans, some of the neotenous traits that humans or Homo sapiens, us, have include a round skull, thinner bones, large brain, large eyes, small nose, small teeth, small jaw, hairless body, lack of a penis bone in males, and the presence of a hymen in females. All of these things are neotenous traits. You don't generally see such a plethora, such a large number of neotenous traits in nature. You see it in domesticated animals, suggesting that we were created as pets. So that's all. I got all the links down below. Take a look. Do the research yourself, as I always suggest. Any comments, I'd love to hear them, pro or con. I have no doubt that there are arguments against all this, and there are appropriate arguments against this. I don't bite into this fully. These are all strong, suggestive material that even where you have these discrepancies that you can knock down one little pin, but the whole thing still stands of its own accord. You may be able to knock down one or two things, but it all connects together really well, especially if you take the time to do the deep research, as I have been doing for decades. So like I stated, links down below. Take a look. Like, share, subscribe, and please comment. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Everybody have a great day, and I'm hoping to do another video very soon. Thanks.